There is a great misunderstanding in life. Many believe that being nice guarantees companionship, love, and acceptance. But the truth is, being nice without wisdom often leads to loneliness. Nice people are kind, giving, and always willing to help. They serve, they care, and they put others first. But the problem is, when you do not value yourself, people will not value you either. You teach others how to treat you by what you tolerate. Being nice is good, but being wise is better. You must understand that relationships are not built on kindness alone. They are built on mutual respect, purpose, and shared values. If you always say yes to everyone, you leave no room for the right people to pursue you. If you constantly pour into others, but never allow yourself to be poured into, you will be drained. If you refuse to set boundaries, people will take advantage of your kindness. Remember, even God sets boundaries. He loves everyone, but not everyone is close to Him. Love requires standards, and so do you. If you find yourself alone, it may not be because you are too nice. It may be because you have not yet learned to balance kindness with self-respect. The right relationships are not attracted to neediness. They are drawn to strength. Kindness is a beautiful thing. It reflects warmth, generosity, and a heart that genuinely cares for others. Nice people are often the ones who go out of their way to help, encourage, and uplift those around them. They give without expecting anything in return. They forgive easily, and they always seek peace instead of conflict. But the reality is, kindness without wisdom often leads to neglect, disappointment, and loneliness. Many nice people believe that if they continue to be good to others, they will naturally receive the same treatment in return. They think that if they are always available, always giving, and always understanding, they will be appreciated, valued, and loved. But life doesn't always work that way. The truth is, when kindness is not balanced with wisdom, it can make a person vulnerable to being used, overlooked, and even discarded. When someone constantly gives without setting boundaries, they unintentionally teach others that their time, energy, and emotions have no limits. People begin to take them for granted, assuming they will always be there, always say yes, and always forgive, no matter how they are treated. The giver, believing that love is about sacrifice, continues to pour into others, not realizing that they are emptying themselves in the process. Nice people often struggle with saying no. They fear that rejecting a request might make them seem selfish or unkind, so they keep saying yes to favors, to demands, to emotional burdens that are not theirs to carry. Over time, they find themselves drained, exhausted, and frustrated, yet unable to express it because they don't want to hurt anyone. But in trying to please everyone, they slowly lose themselves. Kindness should never come at the cost of self-respect. Wisdom teaches that love is not just about giving, it is also about knowing when to step back, when to say no, and when to protect your own heart. Even God Himself, who is love, does not allow Himself to be used. He extends grace, but He also expects accountability. He forgives, but He requires change. If the Creator of the universe sets boundaries, why should you live without them? Many nice people end up alone, not because they are not lovable, but because they fail to recognize their own worth. They attract people to take, but they do not require those people to give. They offer commitment, but settle for inconsistency. They extend loyalty, but tolerate disrespect. And after years of this cycle, they wonder why they feel empty and unfulfilled. The issue is not kindness, it is the lack of wisdom in how that kindness is given. True love, whether in friendships, family, or romantic relationships, is not one-sided. It is a balance of giving and receiving, serving and being served, loving and being loved in return. If kindness is not accompanied by discernment, it becomes a weakness instead of a strength. Some people are not lonely because they are unworthy of companionship, but because they have spent their lives investing in the wrong people. They have poured their love into people who only know how to take. They have been available to those who never valued their presence. They have given chances to those who never deserved them. And now, after all their efforts, they find themselves standing alone. But loneliness is not a curse, it is an opportunity. It is a season to reflect, to realign, and to reset your standards. It is a time to stop blaming others for taking advantage and start taking responsibility for how you allow yourself to be treated. It is a moment to recognize that being kind does not mean being weak. That setting boundaries is not cruelty, it is wisdom. that your love is a gift and it should never be given to those who do not value it. So if you find yourself alone today, do not let it make you bitter. Let it make you better. Choose to be kind, but also choose to be wise. Give, but only where there is also receiving. Love, but never at the expense of your self-respect. Because the right people will not only appreciate your kindness, they will also protect it. And when you understand that, you will never be alone again. Every relationship in your life is a reflection of what you allow. People do not treat you based on who you are. They treat you based on what you tolerate. If you accept disrespect, you invite more of it. If you allow inconsistency, you will always receive it. If you never demand respect, people will assume you do not need it. You set the standard for how others engage with you, whether you realize it or not. Many nice people struggle with this because they believe that being good to others should be enough to receive goodness in return. They think that if they are patient, understanding, and forgiving, people will naturally recognize their value and treat them with the same kindness they give. But life does not work that way. People do not respond to your intentions, they respond to your standards. If you constantly excuse bad behavior, you teach people that their actions have no consequences. If you allow people to take advantage of your kindness, they will continue to do so. If you always make yourself available to those who only reach out when they need something, you will always be an option, never a priority. Nice people often believe that enduring mistreatment makes them strong or noble. They convince themselves that if they keep loving, keep giving, and keep sacrificing, things will eventually change. But wisdom teaches that you cannot make someone value you by giving them more of what they already take for granted. If they do not appreciate you when you give a little, they will not appreciate you when you give everything. Love is not just about what you offer, it is also about what you require. If you do not set boundaries, you allow others to define your worth. If you do not communicate your needs, you leave room for people to assume you have none. If you do not expect respect, you will never receive it. Some people stay in unhealthy relationships, toxic friendships, and one-sided commitments because they fear that setting boundaries will push people away. But the truth is, the right people will never be driven away by your standards. People who genuinely love and respect you will not be offended when you expect better treatment. Only those who benefit from your lack of boundaries will resist your decision to establish them. It is not enough to be kind, you must also be firm. You must decide what you will and will not accept. You must learn to say no without guilt. You must walk away from those who refuse to honor you, not because you do not love them, but because you love yourself enough to choose peace over pain. The most powerful thing you can do is recognize your value and act accordingly. When you raise your standards, you filter out those who were only there to take advantage of you. When you demand respect, you attract those who genuinely appreciate you. When you choose to honor yourself, you invite relationships that are built on mutual love and understanding. If you find yourself feeling unappreciated, overlooked, or mistreated, do not blame others, evaluate what you have allowed. The good news is you have the power to change the way people treat you by changing what you accept. You do not have to beg for love. You do not have to chase respect. You do not have to prove your worth to anyone. So decide today to teach people how to treat you not with words, but with actions. Set boundaries, enforce them, and walk away from anything that does not align with your value. Because when you know your worth, you will never have to convince anyone to see it. Many people believe that being nice is enough to sustain relationships. They think that if they are kind, caring, and always available, others will naturally reciprocate that energy. But relationships do not thrive on kindness alone. They require mutual respect. Without respect, even the purest love will eventually turn into frustration, disappointment, and pain. Nice people often assume that their goodness will make others value them. They go out of their way to be accommodating, to be understanding, and to make sacrifices, hoping that their efforts will be recognized. But in reality, when respect is absent, no amount of kindness can hold a relationship together. Respect is the foundation of every strong and lasting connection. It is what keeps friendships from becoming one-sided. It is what stops love from turning into obligation. It is what prevents kindness from being taken for granted. People do not stay in relationships because someone is nice to them. They stay because they respect them. Without respect, Kindness can quickly become a tool for manipulation. There are people who will gladly receive what you offer, but will never return the same energy. They will take your love, your support, and your patience, but they will not give you the honor and appreciation you deserve. This is why some of the nicest people feel the loneliest. They pour themselves out, yet they remain empty because they are surrounded by those who only know how to take. Many nice people believe that if they just keep giving, things will change. They convince themselves that if they are patient enough, loyal enough, or loving enough, the person will eventually appreciate them. But the truth is, you cannot make someone respect you by giving them more of yourself. Respect is not something you earn by overextending yourself. It is something you demand by knowing your worth. When you do not require respect, you send the message that you do not need it. If you tolerate being ignored, people will assume your presence does not matter. If you accept broken promises, people will believe their word means nothing to you. If you forgive repeated disrespect without change, people will assume there are no consequences to their actions. Love without respect becomes servitude. It turns into a cycle where one person gives and the other simply receives without accountability. True relationships are not built on one person carrying all the weight. There must be balance. Both people must give, both must honor, and both must see each other as equals. Respect is not about controlling others. It is about setting a standard for how you will be treated. It is about making it clear that while you are kind, you are not a doormat. That while you are patient, you are not to be taken for granted. That while you love deeply, you will not stay where you are not valued. Some people avoid setting standards because they fear losing those around them. But the truth is, anyone who leaves because you require respect was never truly there for you in the first place. The right people will never be offended by your boundaries. They will honor them. The wrong people will resist them because they benefited from your lack of them. If you find yourself constantly being overlooked, undervalued, or disrespected, do not blame your kindness. Evaluate whether you have required respect. Being nice is not the problem. Allowing others to treat you poorly is. You do not have to become harsh or unkind to gain respect, but you must be firm about what you will and will not tolerate. Decide today that you will no longer settle for relationships where you are only valued for what you give, not for who you are. That you will no longer entertain connections that require you to sacrifice your dignity in order to be loved. That you will no longer remain in places where respect is not mutual. Because in the end, relationships that are built on kindness alone will not last, but those built on kindness and respect will never be broken. Many people believe that being available to everyone will make them more loved, valued, and appreciated. They think that if they keep showing up, keep giving, and keep making sacrifices, the right people will see their worth and stay. But the truth is, when you say yes to everyone, you leave no space for the right people to truly pursue you. Nice people often struggle with this because they fear rejection. They believe that saying no might hurt someone's feelings or make them seem unkind. So they overextend themselves. They answer every call, respond to every request, and show up even when they are exhausted. They do not want to disappoint anyone, so they keep giving even to those who do not value their presence. But availability without discernment leads to depletion. When you are always accessible, people stop seeing you as valuable. They assume you will always be there, so they do not make an effort to pursue you, appreciate you, or prioritize you. The more you chase people, the more they run. The more you beg for time and attention, the less you receive. People naturally value what is rare. They respect what they must work for. When something is too easy to get, it is often taken for granted. This is why many nice people find themselves in one-sided relationships, constantly giving while others only take. They believe that kindness will be rewarded, but instead it becomes expected. Saying yes to everyone does not make you more loved, it makes you more used. When you always make yourself available, you attract those who only come around when they need something. You end up in friendships where you are the one putting in all the effort. You enter relationships where you are constantly proving your worth while the other person does nothing to keep you. Love is not about constant availability, it is about mutual pursuit. The right people will not need you to always chase them. They will not disappear when you set boundaries. They will not punish you for having self-respect. If someone is only present when you are making all the effort, they are not meant to be in your life. You must understand that saying no is not rejection, it is redirection. When you refuse to be available to the wrong people, you make room for the right ones. When you stop overextending yourself, you attract those who genuinely care. When you step back from those who take you for granted, you allow those who truly value you to come forward. Many people fear that if they stop chasing, they will end up alone. But the truth is, being alone for a season is better than being surrounded by people who do not appreciate you. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the presence of those who do not see your worth. Nice people often stay in toxic relationships because they believe their effort will eventually be recognized. They hold on to people who barely acknowledge them, thinking that one day things will change. But love should not have to be earned through exhaustion. The right relationships do not require you to prove your worth. They recognize it from the start. If you feel unseen, unappreciated, and overlooked, it is not because you are not good enough. It is because you have been investing in the wrong places. You have been giving to those who do not give back. You have been chasing people who were never meant to stay. The moment you stop running after those who do not value you, you will see who is truly meant for you. The right people will not need you to beg for their time. They will not make you feel like an option. They will pursue you, respect you, and make an effort to be in your life. So do not be afraid to say no. Do not fear setting boundaries. Do not be afraid to step back and see who truly cares. Because the right people will not leave. When you stop chasing, they will come closer. And when you understand that, you will never be alone again. Love is one of the most powerful forces in life, but love without standards is dangerous. Many people believe that love means accepting everything, tolerating anything, and sacrificing endlessly. They think that the more they give, the more they will be loved in return. But true love is not just about giving, it is also about requiring. It is about knowing that love requires standards. Nice people often struggle with this because they want to be seen as kind, understanding, and patient. They convince themselves that love is about endurance, so they tolerate neglect. They tell themselves that love is about forgiveness, so they excuse repeated disrespect. They believe that love is about sacrifice, so they constantly give, even when they receive nothing in return. But love without standards does not produce happiness, it produces suffering. If you do not set standards, you invite mistreatment. When you accept broken promises, people stop taking their words seriously. When you allow inconsistency, people assume you do not need stability. When you tolerate disrespect, people believe you have no boundaries. You cannot blame others for how they treat you if you never require them to treat you better. God himself, who is love, has standards. He welcomes all, but he does not tolerate anything. He forgives, but he requires repentance. He loves, but he expects obedience. If the creator of love sets boundaries, why should you live without them? If love does not come with standards, it is not love, it is desperation. Many people remain in relationships where they are undervalued because they fear that setting standards will push people away. But the truth is, standards do not push the right people away, they filter out the wrong ones. The right person will not be offended by your expectations, they will rise to meet them. The wrong person will make you feel guilty for wanting better, not because you are asking for too much, but because they were never willing to give much in the first place. You must understand that you are not responsible for making people treat you right. That is a decision they must make on their own. But you are responsible for deciding what you will and will not accept. If someone truly loves you, they will not fight against your standards, they will respect them. Love without respect is not love. It is attachment. It is neediness. It is a cycle of giving and giving until you have nothing left. Some people stay in unhealthy relationships hoping that their patience will change the other person. They convince themselves that if they just love harder, sacrifice more, and lower their expectations, things will improve. But love should never require you to shrink yourself. The moment you have to beg for love, it is no longer love, it is survival. The problem is not that you are too nice, it is that you have not required the right kind of love. You cannot change how others behave, but you can decide whether or not you will accept it. People treat you based on what they know you will tolerate. If you continue to allow mistreatment, it will continue. If you lower your standards for the sake of keeping someone, you will lose yourself in the process. Some will say that having standards makes you difficult. That expecting consistency, honesty, and respect is asking for too much. But the truth is, it is only too much for those who were never serious about you to begin with. The right person will never see your standards as a burden. They will see them as a guideline for how to love you correctly. If you are constantly feeling unappreciated, undervalued, or taken for granted, take a step back and ask yourself, what have I allowed? Love is not meant to feel like suffering. It is not meant to leave you feeling empty. It is not meant to be a one-sided sacrifice. Love is not just about giving, it is about knowing when to walk away from anything that does not honor you. So do not be afraid to set standards. Do not fear that requiring more will drive people away. The right people will never leave because you have expectations. They will stay because they respect them. And those who leave, they were never meant to stay. And when you understand that, you will never be alone again. There comes a time in life when you must stop waiting for people to see your worth and start walking in it. Too many people live hoping that if they keep proving themselves, keep being available, keep loving unconditionally, one day someone will finally recognize their value. But the truth is, your worth is not determined by how others treat you, it is determined by how you treat yourself. Nice people often find themselves alone, not because they lack love to give, but because they have not learned to value themselves first. They pour into others while leaving themselves empty. They invest in relationships that do not invest in them. They make room for people who never make room for them. And in doing so, they teach the world that they do not require the same love and care they so freely give. But you must understand, you set the tone for how others treat you by how you treat yourself. If you do not value your time, others will waste it. If you do not respect your own boundaries, others will cross them. If you do not see yourself as worthy, others will struggle to see it too. People respond to the energy you carry. If you walk as if you are an option, you will always be treated as one. But if you walk as if you are chosen, as if you are valuable, as if you are worth being pursued, respected, and cherished, people will either rise to meet you or remove themselves from your life. This is not arrogance, it is self-respect. It is understanding that you were not created to beg for love. You were not meant to settle for half-hearted commitment. You were not designed to prove your worth to anyone. The right people will see it without you having to convince them. And those who do not, they were never meant to be in your life. Many nice people believe that if they love hard enough, if they stay patient long enough, if they sacrifice more, things will change. But love should not feel like a test you have to pass. A connection built on proving yourself is not a real connection, it is a transaction. Real love does not require you to lose yourself. It does not make you feel like you are constantly reaching for something just out of grasp. When you finally recognize your worth, everything changes. You stop waiting for closure from people who left. You stop chasing after those who do not reciprocate your effort. You stop over-explaining yourself to those who refuse to understand. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. And yes, at first, it may feel like choosing yourself will leave you alone, but loneliness is not the absence of people, it is the presence of those who do not see you. It is sitting in a room full of people yet feeling invisible. It is being in a relationship yet feeling unappreciated. That kind of loneliness is far worse than standing alone in your worth. You must be willing to lose people who do not value you in order to make space for those who do. You must trust that the right relationships will not require you to beg for love. You must believe that there are people who will love you effortlessly, who will respect your boundaries, who will pour into you just as you pour into them. But you will never find them if you are too busy holding on to those who do not belong in your life. So today, choose to honor yourself. Choose to stop waiting for someone to see what has always been there. Choose to walk in your worth without apology. Because the moment you do, the right people will see it too. And when you understand that, you will never be alone again. As we come to the end of this journey, remember that being nice alone is not enough. It is your ability to set boundaries, demand respect, and value yourself that will determine the quality of your relationships. Do not settle for love that requires you to lose yourself. Choose to honor your worth, walk in your power, and surround yourself with those who truly appreciate you. You are not meant to be anyone's option. You are meant to be cherished, respected, and loved. When you begin to live with that understanding, you will find that the right people will naturally gravitate toward you. And those who do not value you they will fall away, leaving space for those who truly deserve a place in your life. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. Remember, your worth is already established, and the right people will see that. Good luck on your journey, and never forget, you are enough, just as you are.